Creation stories were recorded in almost every world culture and give us a great insight into the oral traditions passed down for millennia. In China, the story of the goddess Nua goes like this. In the beginning, surrounded by chaos, was the sleeping giant named Pangu. The hairy horned giant woke up and upon standing, split the heavens and the earth. After thousands of years, he died and his body became the sun, moon, and stars, mountains, rivers, and forests, and all else in creation. From this primordial creation, the goddess Nua arrived and found that the 4 pillars holding heaven and earth apart were broken. So she repaired them. Then she fashioned mankind from clay. In some cases, the stories seemed disjointed, as if combining different myths. The book of Genesis from the Torah or Old Testament is clearly a combination of a variety of oral myths. The first chapter, God creates the earth from the void in 7 days. But then in the second chapter, a heavenly garden appears out of nowhere, and God creates man in his image and creates woman from his rib. She convinces the man to eat from the tree of knowledge, and both are doomed. Linguists studying the ancient texts have noticed that different authors recorded these 2 stories because the Hebrew words they use for God changed from story to story. In the King James Version, this is represented by using the words God and Lord. And of course, the parallels to Ishtar's story are obvious. If they only had plagiarism checkers back then, those who wrote the Bible would have gotten nailed for sure. In Japan, ancient origin stories were recorded in the text called the Kojiki between 500 and 700 CE. Similar to the common rendition of Genesis, Earth is created from nothing by a few deities. The story goes, Izanami examined her body and found that one place had not grown, and told this to Izanagi, who replied that his body was well formed, but that one place had grown to excess. He proposed that he place his excess in her place that was not complete, and that in doing so, they would make new land. She greeted him by saying, "What a fine young man." They procreated and gave birth to a leech child, which they put out in a basket and let float away. Moses, anybody? They did not recognize it as one of their children. Disappointed by their failures in procreation, they consulted the deities, who explained that the cause of their difficulties was that the female had spoken first when they met to procreate. Izanagi and Izanami returned to their island and again met behind the heavenly pillar. When they met, he said, "What a fine young woman," and they mated and gave birth to 8 main islands of Japan and 6 minor islands. In summation, women shouldn't speak before men. Rude. Many Aboriginal myths attempt to explain the superiority of men and suggest that there was once a time when women dominated. In one of the Aboriginal myths, the man-eater is outwitted by the local men. It begins, in the dream time, in the land of the Murungbata people, a great river floats from the hills through a wide plain to the sea, where lived an old woman named Mutujinga, a woman of power. She could speak with the spirits because she had this power. She could do so many things which the men could not. She could send the spirits to frighten away game, to wailing people at night, or to cause a child to be born without life. The men feared the power of Mutujinga and did not consort with her. Mutujinga found no satisfaction in food, for she craved the flesh of men. Wait a minute. Whoa, here she comes. Watch out, boy, she'll chew you up. All right, so I digress. Anyway, she creates an elaborate trap for unsuspecting men, and after one goes missing, the menfolk come to investigate. They forced her and her daughter to reveal their secrets and took control of what had been mystical.